back at the steering wheel. This is part 3 of the, we're going to go ahead and assemble. We got all our goodies in the mail, and I went out and picked them up. Show you what I got. I got turn signal switch assembly. As you see, the old one, this actually, you could buy this online in 2 pieces. They're calling this a cam, turn signal cam, and this is a turn signal switch assembly or whatever. But this one all came together, so I was happy about that, and it wasn't that much. It was like, I think, 35 bucks. But right here, they're calling this actually a turn signal switch. This is the old one. This is a little different. It has 4 prongs on this side. This only had 2, so I was looking at the guy and I said, this is not going to work, and he goes, oh, it's a new one. I was like, alright, well, we'll see. There's the 2 prongs. I went ahead and got a new hazard warning flasher. Emergency flasher, there it is. And here's the switch that kind of disintegrated right there. This is a, what is it? This is the warning buzzer switch non-tilt. So, has to do with your ignition. It's a warning buzzer. Yeah, 25 bucks. Oh, way overpriced. But it was the cheapest I could find. And then here's your rag joint. I wasn't sure if this right there was broke or not. See it come up? And I asked the guy at the Modern Chevrolet. They sell parts for cars back in the 60s and stuff. I asked if there was something I can buy that can put on here and replace it, and he said no, there isn't, blah blah blah. So I bought a new rag joint. It is different, but I'm pretty sure it'll function just fine. Not sure what these are. I think they were just shipping clips, but I don't know. We'll find out. We'll get into it. Oh, and then I got a new it's the steering column seal, because that was the old one. No good, no bueno. And that's about it. So let's get back in there and put this bad boy together. First thing we're going to put together are these 2. Here's the external shaft. Here's the internal shaft that protects the steering column shaft, I'll call it. I'm going to make up names, bear with me. But this tube has to go in here this way, then the spring, this plastic cap, and then this metal cap, and those are held on by this external, I'm going to call it a spring or a clamp, whatever, retention spring. This is a retention spring. So let's go ahead and do that. Hey, real quick, before, I know assembling this that had some grease on certain areas. I'm going to go ahead and just use some bearing grease. I know it looks like it looks terrible, but it's just it's gear grease. It'll last. It'll work fine. So that's what I have. That's what I'm going to use. All right, like I said, we're going to go ahead and marry these things up. So first, I'm going to take the tube, stick it down the shaft. Be careful. I mean, you just painted this. Next, the spring and this cap. And this retention spring, there's a little slit right there, and on the other side, and you can see where it's going to go in right there. All right, first piece done. And you thought it was going to be hard. Okay, next what we did is we flipped the column around, and here's another cap that slides into and over the internal shaft. Okay, made a mistake. Like I said, I have to do things over again because I make mistakes. This cap right here, it needs to go in right. This cap has to go in this way. You got to slide it in. So you take this out, take the tube out, put this cap in first, then slide the tube in through it, because it won't slide down this way. So you just slide it in and move the cap down. Sorry about that. And then the retaining ring, just slide it on and seat it in there as far as you can. Hey, next up, we're just going to put the actually steering column shaft in the protective tubes, the column external tubes. And all you're doing is going from the bottom, where you have this little spring-loaded mount, and you just slide it in. You got to be careful going in, and it's just going to come out the other side. So let's do that. Right, there it is. No big deal. It's sticking out the end. Being careful when I'm talking about is you don't want to screw up the threads along the way, because things go on these threads. Now at the bottom, near the rag joint area, you have a bearing, and I just re-greased it. So I just put a little grease on the bearing, and it seems fine. And so moving on. Next thing you're going to put together, you're going to go ahead and assemble, is these sleeves that go over the main column. And how they marry up is this little tab here. It's going to fit like so, but the tab is going to click down actually on right there, and right there. So there's 3 places. To get that to work, you're just have to bend back the tabs a little bit, and you just kind of force it on. It should click into place and be good to go. All right, there you have it. There it is. All I did was I kind of lined it up, and then I motivated it to go down. I was doing it this way so to apply even pressure all the way down, of course, but it's all lined up. That's all it is. It's just a tube, so works out. This outer column support, I call it, whatever. You need to slide it on here. You see in here, there's a gap right there. It's going to slide over that area right there. So it's a little hump. So there's only one way this is going to slide onto this, which makes it easy. Now remember, you got that O-ring in there. It's not a rubber O-ring, it's a O-ring spring, whatever. And then it just pushes down on that cap, and that just helps hold it in, I guess. I think this is as far as it's going to go. I did put some grease on there. There we go. Pointing device. I put some grease, of course, on this sleeve so it would slide on easier. It did not. So I was able to use a block of wood and the hammer, and I just took the block of wood and tapped it down, and it slid on after a couple taps, so it's not that bad. Next up is I forgot to do before I put the shaft and everything in. I forgot to put this on. I don't know what its function is, but I'm putting it back where I found it. I'll show you in a minute. All right, this is not a 3D movie. If you can see those two screws right there, oops, one there and one there, and that's where the plate goes. Just screw it in. Again, I don't know what the function it is, but it's in there and it's staying. I'm going to call it the ignition, or lock set, or yeah, the ignition section of the column. Before I put it on the column, I gotta put a bunch of little parts in there. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna reuse the old cylinder. Decided to. I mean, it works. I'll just get a new key because it looks like it's crap. Here's another one of those quarter plates. That's just the cylinder head part. There's a little gasket here, that one buzzer part, and the flasher. I'm gonna put all those on before I stick it on. I stick it on the column. So let's get started. Okay, here's the key cylinder. And remember that tab I destroyed? This one? All right, where it goes, watch this tail thing. It's gonna go, if you're looking at the top of the cylinder, this top of the steering column. So it's gonna go on this hole right here. Get my hand out of the way. Right here. And how it's gonna go is the two brass tabs go this direction. And I don't think there's anything that holds it into place because it just slides in. That's it. The other side, as you can see, it comes up. There's the back side of it. I don't know if you really see it. There it is. Anyways, moving on. Next piece is this another metal plate. And it just fits on right there. After that, this is like I guess I'm going to call it a sleeve. And all it does is just fit right. There's no tab, so it just fits right over the main shaft area. Fits in there pretty snug. We're going to put in the key cylinder. As you can see on the key cylinder, there's this tab right there, and this has to do with the gears inside. And also, when you slide it in, it'll lock into place. There it is. When you slide it in, you'll lock it into place. This spring-loaded tab is going to click in there, and it'll hold the whole cylinder in. It's the only way to get it out is to depress it, or press it in to slide it out. So make sure you get it right the first time. Yeah, let's look at the insides. All right, you see the groove right there? Those are going to slide right down there. I might put a little grease in there just to make it easier for me. And you can see the gears down there. Real quick note, you see this top of this gear right here? It won't focus, but right there, it's kind of like got a notch on either side. It has to match up with the key cylinder, so you got to make sure those match up before it goes on, otherwise it won't go on correctly. Okay, I got the ignition switch in there, or the key cylinder. A little tough. That's all right. Everything came out. I put a little grease in there because I'm going to need it. And I greased up the other side. So right now I'm going to go ahead and marry these two up and hopefully get it right. Remember, this rod goes down through the tube underneath this and then connects to this ignition switch. All right, that was it. All it does is just slide on there, and you got to be careful. Again, you got threads, and just make this comes out. Make sure it comes out the back side. Just gonna roll over. Again, it links up here. There it is. It goes in that hole right there. So it's just gonna go on like that. We're going to put that on later. Okay, one thing I didn't show you, the 3 bolts that after you put the I'll call it the ignition sleeve. I think I've named this 3 different things already. Anyways, ignition sleeve. You put it on. There's those 4 bolts. One there, one there, one there, and then there's one on the back side. That tightens it down and holds it in place. So the next thing to do is to put in the wiring. This is the turn signal switch harness assembly. And when you're putting this in, well, mine came with a sleeve. I went ahead and painted it and clear coated it. But there's a slot. You slide it down through, comes out because this end actually goes right here, and it's going to connect to something here. So it has to come out so it points there. But over here, you got to remember this point, you're looking at it. This point right here is where you screw in your flashers. So you got to find that hole for the flasher, and you line that up. And then you got the turn signal switch. If you line up one, the other one should line up as well. So I'm going to go with the flasher first, and then it'll snake down. All right, everything's tightened down, and let me point out the screws that I put in there. Looking for my pointing device. We got a screw that's right there, and right there. And I went ahead and put on the turn signal switch. So I'll just test it out. It's left, I think. Yep. Or no, right, center, left, and back to center. So it works out. So the next thing to go on is going to be the spring. Now here's the old one. Here's the new one. I'm going to go ahead and use it. I'm a little leery because if you look at the old one, the difference is this wire right here, it's soldered or welded down to that point. It's probably soldered. And it only has 2 knobs on this side, and this one has 4. I don't know if those are 4 structure, I don't know. This one does not come with a wire. So I think whatever I put in there will have to connect some way. But I'm going to go ahead and use the new one. I might hate myself later, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I put the spring on, then the turn signal, and then the plate. And I will have to press this on, so I'll be back in a little bit. All right, I got it all pressed on, and it took a little bit. And if you don't have the tool, you can have a friend and push it down. The ring will go on, and that's what I ended up doing. I got my best friend in the world to help me out, my wife, and my daughter. She helped out too. But anyways, I went ahead and used the old turn signal or horn. I said turn signal. This is actually the horn switch connector. I kept the old one because this wire, one of the reasons is the wire's connected already, and I can just splice it in, you know. And the new one, one of the reasons, another reason, is see the black line? I would have had to cut that much off for it to fit because it was longer than the old one, and I couldn't press it down far enough. So I went ahead with the old one, and it's going to work out. So if you get a newer one of these, you got to shave off that much. I didn't want to do it. If there was a wire coming out of here, I probably would have done it, but I'll just use the old one. It'll work, no biggie. So the next thing to put on is, actually the last thing that I'm going to put on is this plate. It comes with 3 very small screws. All right, the last plate is on, and those are the 3 little screws that are holding it in. And this is the nut that holds in the steering wheel, which I'm not going to use. It's right there, and it says Impala, which is, yeah, well. Anyways, it's broke actually in the back, and I don't want to use it. So, moving on. This is actually not painted. It's just clear coated. I like the look of it. It's got that patina, steampunk, whatever. Did the same thing for the handle for the turn signal. And the flasher's actually new. But the ignition, or the key works, cylinder. Key comes out and goes back in. Pretty much done with this. You going down? I initially painted it flat black, and I put about 2 coats on there. I primered it, and I put probably 2 or 3 coats of black on there, flat black, and then I put 3 coats of clear. So it's going to be protected. I have some areas that I got to clean up, but that's all right. I did put on the ignition. I put the old ignition switch, I'm going to call it, back on. I cleaned it up, clear coated the back so it doesn't rust anymore or get grimy, and then I cleaned up the contacts. That's it. And I connected it to the key. If you turn it over carefully without breaking the turn signal arm lever, this the actual turn signal apparatus cluster. It's a little longer than last time, or the last one. So I'm gonna have to work something out because the last one just came out right about here. So we'll have to work on that. Moving further down to this area, this was on there. This is actually a neutral safety switch. Back in the 60s, they put them on the, Chevy put them on, or GM put them on the steering wheel. I'm going to put an LS1 or 6 in there with a modern transmission. The neutral safety switch will probably come on the transmission, so I'm not going to remount this. And that's the rag joint. That's the new one. I'm not going to mount that because I don't think I really need it right now. Just to protect things. And moving on down past the steering column, here is the mount that goes in the underneath the steering column. It's going to hold it in place. I went ahead and painted that gunmetal, and I painted the these pull out. They're aluminum. I went ahead and painted those clear zinc, and then the plate gunmetal at the end, and then these will be zinc. So yeah, it'll add to it. And then I have the seal. So the steering column is pretty much done in my eyes. And there are a couple little things here and there. I just still got to test this out, but I got, I'll have to wait till I get the car together. But that's all I'm going to do for now on it. And this is going to become wall art because I'm not going to use it. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on Alien Resto Mod Garage.